into a wagon. Diego watches Ram, frightened but trusting. Ram let out a breath, staring at the setting sun. "Go north. Don't stop. Don't look back. I'll catch you on the road." Diego looks at him. "God be with you." Maria climbs in, tears already falling. The wagon rolls away. Ram watches them leave like he's letting his heart walk away. Then he turns uphill. The full moon is rising. Torches gather at the chateau gates, men getting ready to burn the village. Ram removes his shirt, vest, and shoes, folding them and leaving them in the street. He tilts his face up to the moon, his eyes shimmering with moisture. No more pretending. He had learned healing magic, tricks, spells. But tonight, he reached for something older than magic, darker. The truth, his truth. Ram steps forward, the moonlight casting a shadow on the road. His shadow begins to stretch impossibly so. He had learned to control it, to be its master. But tonight, he would let it free. He thought maybe he was just trying to make himself feel better about letting it go. But no, his warning was ignored. But this time, he was not waiting to die. He was waiting to stop another man's idea of power. The transformation. If one watched the shadow on the ground, they would find themselves doubting their eyes or their sanity. With the sound of bones shifting, the silhouette lengthened, fur catching moonlight. Then, a terrifying howl rings through the night. With horror, the Dawn's men watch this, then begin to fire muskets and crossbows. In a blur, the huge wolf hits them like a storm. Torches drop from numb fingers as men scatter, unable to get away from a thing too fast for the eye to follow. The moon holds silent witness to the terror of bad men who saw their lives come to an abrupt end. The silence after was total, just the breeze off the sea, the only sound. A wolf-like being stands alone in the road, breathing, victorious, terrifying. Half again taller than a man, he looks up at the chateau, seeing the man on the balcony. Letting his throat change slightly so he could speak, he screams in a voice of gravel and ice, "Dawn, I'm coming!" The Dawn rallies men in lines, muskets ready. Smelling the fear, Ram charges. The gate rattles, shrieks, breaks free. Ram enters the grounds. Chaos, gunfire, screams, footsteps pounding on stone. Ram moves through corridors and stairwells unstoppable. He knocks over oil lamps. Intentionally, fire begins to spread. He chases the Dawn down to the cellar. Cornered now, the Dawn backs away with sword and lamp. "Who are you?" "You think you've beaten me. You think you've beaten me," he screams. The wolf's eyes glow in the dim light. The Dawn throws the lamp. It shatters. Flames bloom. Ram watches the Dawn, then makes a sound that could only be a laugh. Ram retreats up the steps, then pulls supports, collapsing the stairwell and trapping the Dawn below. The Dawn screams in the fire. Ram turns away as the chateau begins to roar with flame. Ram emerges from the chateau and jumps on the rock he had sat on that afternoon. Then, raising his head to the full moon, gives a howl of victory, watching the chateau burning as it echoed over the village. He then jumps down and begins changing back, step by step, human again, naked, blood-streaked, exhausted. Villagers had gathered with fire buckets, silent, watching. A villager approaches him, reaches up and pours clean water over Ram's head. Then another, and another. A cloth is handed him too dry. The seamstress steps up and hands him clothes. He dresses, moving through the villagers. A horse is brought by the blacksmith. Ram mounts. He looks back once at the villagers, stunned by their gratitude, then rides north. They didn't thank him. They didn't curse him. They simply helped him leave. They'll never speak of the night again, of the night the demon came. If they speak of him, he might come back. Ram listened. Then he kept his word. The Dawn was gone. His men were gone, and his home lit the sky. By morning, the hill was quiet. Smoke drifted into the pale light of dawn. Ram rides into the night. Ram rides hard as the horse's breath becomes ragged. Then he senses something wrongness ahead. He slows, a faint firelight in the distance. Ram narrows his eyes. No, he spurs the horse. A roadside camp. Wagon, Olive tree, small fire. Something is off. Too quiet. Ram approaches cautiously. A crossbow bolt slams into his chest. Ram grunts but stays upright. Figures rush from shadows. Ram is knocked off his horse by a charging rider with a short lance. He hits the ground, rolls, springs up, more bolts, swords drawn. Ram tears a bolt free. His attackers hesitate, unnerved by how little it stops him. Ram fights like a veteran. Footwork, timing, economy. 2 attackers go down quickly. The third falters and finds himself dropped to the ground. Ram turns. Maria is held at knife point by the crossbowman, dragged near the wagon. Diego is on the ground, hands tied. "Let me go," and she lives. Ram freezes, eyes locked on Maria. Maria's eyes plead, but she holds herself still, brave. Diego struggles, then rises behind the captor with hands bound around a piece of wood. He swings hard, cracking the man's skull. Maria breaks free. Ram throws a knife with perfect aim. The captor drops. Ram catches Maria, wrapping her tight. Diego exhales, shaking. Ram looks at him. "Thank you." "No, thank you." Diego smiles. If they were on schedule, they had 3 days to make it there. They rolled through the countryside, Ram never relaxing, watching the roads while riding alongside. Maria sleeping with the sacks and boxes in the wagon, and staying up with Ram at night, saying he needs rest, but he doesn't sleep. They move north. After a few days, they came to a bustling port where Ram takes them down to the ships tied at the pier. They stopped at a large 3-masted ship being loaded. Ram approaches a sailor holding a ledger. The sailor straightens, recognizes him, shakes his hand with respect. They exchange a few quiet words, laugh. Diego watches, baffled. The crew begins unloading Diego's wagon immediately, as if this was expected. Ram waves at them to come over, then leads Diego and Maria aboard. Inside the ship, Ram shows Diego a modest cabin, 2 bunks. "You'll share with the first mate." Diego nods, still overwhelmed. Ram leads them to a cabin at the rear. A brass plate reads, "Captain." Maria stops. I can't." Ram opens the door. Inside, spacious. A large bunk, a long table with chairs. Crew begins bringing in their things like, "This is normal." Maria turns to Ram. "Why would they give me this?" Ram swallows vulnerable. "Because you'd be sharing it with me, if Diego will let me marry you. If you don't wish to, I'll bunk with the crew." Diego looks at Ram, then Maria. "That's up to her." Maria's mouth opens. Then she squeals and jumps into Ram's arms. Ram laughs relieved, disbelieving. A simple wedding at sea shortly after departure with the crew cheering. The captain officiates. Crew watches, laughing and smiling at Ram's discomfort. Later, where all the officers were at dinner in the captain's cabin, Maria, unable to hold the question any longer, asks the captain, "Why did you give up the captain's cabin?" The captain points at Ram, amused. "It's his cabin." Maria frowns. "But don't you have passenger cabins?" "I do. I'm in one." He leans closer, smiling. "It's his ship. He owns it, and others. When he's aboard, he's the captain, unless he says otherwise." Ram shifts uncomfortably as the table laughs. Maria stares at Ram, stunned, then delighted. Sunlit deck, sails full. The morning breeze crisp. Ram stands at the wheel barefoot, wearing a loose tunic tucked into trousers. Maria brings tea. "Did you sleep well?" Ram asks. "Like a dream. Where are we going?" Ram looks at Maria. "Boston. I'm moving my company to the colonies. Europe is no good anymore." Maria laughs. "Adventure!" She sobers, eyes wet. "Will you really teach me to read?" Ram's expression softens, gentle, reverent. "I'll do one better. I'll teach you to write." "English?" "Of course." Maria wraps her arm around his waist. He pulls her close. Ram stands alone for a moment, staring at the dark ocean. Maria enters quietly behind him, slips her hand into his. Ram squeezes back. "You're home now." Ram looks down at their hands, then out at the sea. "For the first time in a long time, I think I believe you." The ship cuts through moonlit water. He had come to the sea to die, and instead, he found a life.
This is Rusty of Rusty's Mind. Join me for more stories of Rom and his history and other stories of things that go bump in the night. This has been Fire in the Sky. Good night.